When your passenger is the son of one of the most powerful men, the rules seem to vanish, right? Not this time. It started with music blasting in first class and ended on a runway bearing his own last name under a storm of camera flashes. What happened in between is a story you won't forget. Let's start from the beginning. Jack Harper wasn't just a pilot. He was the captain, the boss, the guy who ran the show at 30,000 feet. And after 25 years of flying planes, he had one unbreakable rule: his plane, his rules. It didn't matter if you were the mayor, a movie star, or the president himself. Up here, Jack was in charge. If you couldn't handle that, the door was, well, way up in the air, but you got the point. That day, it was business as usual. Jack sat in the cockpit, running through his pre-flight checklist, sipping his lukewarm coffee. The cabin crew buzzed over the intercom about seat assignments and overhead bins, while passengers shuffled in, dragging bags too big to fit anywhere but a storage unit. Jack glanced at the monitors displaying live feeds from the cabin, something he liked to call his in-flight drama channel. And then Jack saw him. A tall, lanky kid with hair that screamed, "I don't care," wearing sneakers so spotless they probably cost more than Jack's mortgage payment. The kid flopped into a seat near the front, tossing his designer bag onto the one next to him like it was some kind of royal decree. Two hulking men in suits, bodyguards obviously, stood stiffly nearby, radiating "don't mess with us" energy. "Who's this guy? Prince of something?" Jack muttered to himself, leaning closer to the screen. His brows furrowed as the kid kicked his legs up, planting his shiny sneakers right on the back of the seat in front of him. "You seeing this?" Jack called to his co-pilot, Mike, who was flipping through a manual like they were about to rebuild the engine mid-flight. Mike smirked. Must be nice to have no manners and endless cash. Guessing he's someone important. Not long after, the flight attendant, a veteran named Linda, popped into the cockpit to deliver the scoop. "That's Barron Trump," she said in her usual flat, no-nonsense tone. "You know, the son of you-know-who." Jack rolled his eyes. "Figures." Barron wasn't making it easy on the crew. His voice carried through the cabin like he was hosting a talk show, cracking jokes with his bodyguards loud enough for the whole first-class section to hear. When Linda politely asked him to buckle his seatbelt, Barron leaned back with the kind of smirk that screamed privilege. "Buckle up? Nah, never had to. Why start now?" he drawled, barely glancing her way. Linda tried again, this time a little firmer. "Sir, it's for your safety. FAA regulations require—" "Relax, it's not that serious," Barron interrupted, waving her off. "Let's not turn this into a thing, all right?" Jack caught every word through the intercom and felt his jaw tighten. Regulations weren't optional, not on his watch. The plane wasn't even in the air yet, and this kid was already testing his patience. Jack leaned back in his chair, took a slow sip of his coffee, and considered his options. "Mike," he said, setting the cup down, "this is going to be one of those flights." "What are you thinking?" Mike asked, already sensing the storm brewing. "I'm thinking," Jack said, a glint of determination in his eye. "It's time for a little chat with Mr. Trump Jr." Jack picked up the intercom and dialed the dispatcher. "Control, this is flight 187. Just a heads up. We might be dealing with a passenger issue. I'll handle it, but stay tuned." Mike raised an eyebrow. "You're really gonna go there, aren't you?" Jack smirked. If he thinks he's above the rules, he's got another thing coming. On this plane, I'm the one calling the shots. As Jack prepared to step out of the cockpit, he didn't know exactly how this was going to play out, but one thing was clear. Barron Trump had just met the one person in the skies who wasn't going to back down. The plane had been in the air for about 30 minutes, and the cabin, for the most part, was settling into the usual rhythm of a flight. People were flipping through magazines, adjusting their tiny airplane pillows, and awkwardly negotiating armrest space. That is, until Barron decided it was the perfect time to turn his row into a private club. Out of nowhere, music blasted from his phone, so loud it could have been the in-flight entertainment for the entire plane. And the kicker? He had earbuds in, but they were dangling around his neck, like some kind of ironic accessory. Passengers in row 25 shot annoyed glances toward first class, while others whispered in disbelief. Linda, the head flight attendant, approached him again, her patience hanging on by a thread. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower the volume. It's disturbing the other passengers." Barron didn't even bother looking up. With an exaggerated sigh, he plucked out one earbud and said, "Disturbing? Seriously? Pretty sure they should be thanking me for upgrading their vibe." Linda straightened her posture. "I'm asking you politely to turn it down." That's when Barron decided to drop his trademark line, delivered with the kind of smug confidence that could make anyone's blood boil. "I'm pretty sure my dad could buy this airline. Maybe try asking me in a nicer way next time." Linda stared at him for a beat, her jaw tightening. Without another word, she spun on her heel and marched toward the cockpit. In the cockpit, Jack was already bracing for bad news. He could feel it in the air, like the turbulence you sense before you see it on the radar. When Linda appeared in the doorway, he gave her a look that said, "What now?" "It's the Trump kid," Linda began, crossing her arms. "He's blasting music loud enough to rattle the cabin, and when I asked him to turn it down, well, let's just say he's testing my patience." Jack sighed, his fingers drumming on the control panel. "What did he say this time?" Linda hesitated, then mimicked Barron's voice. "My dad could buy this airline." Jack's brow furrowed. "That's it. I'm handling this." When Jack stepped into the cabin, the atmosphere shifted. Passengers stopped mid-conversation, their eyes following him like a hawk tracking prey. Jack had a presence, a way of walking that said, "I'm not here to play." He moved down the aisle with purpose, zeroing in on Barron, who was now scrolling on his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. "Excuse me," Jack said, stopping in front of Barron's seat. Barron finally looked up, tilting his head in a way that screamed, "Bored teenager." "Oh, hey, what's up?" "I'm Captain Harper," Jack began, his voice steady but firm, "and I need you to turn down the music, now." Barron raised an eyebrow, the corner of his mouth curving into a smirk. "So you're the big boss around here, huh? Tell me, Captain, are you also replaceable?" The audacity of it hung in the air for a moment. Jack leaned in slightly, lowering his voice so only Barron and the nearby passengers could hear. "Let me make something very clear. This isn't your private jet, and I don't care who your father is. If you don't follow my instructions, I'll land this plane at the nearest airport and let you explain yourself to security. Understood?" For a second, Barron looked stunned, as if no one had ever spoken to him like that before. Then he leaned back in his seat, chuckling. "Go ahead, man. Let's see how much it costs you to ground an entire flight because of me." Jack didn't flinch. He straightened up and said loud enough for the nearby passengers to hear, "That's exactly what I'll do." By the time Jack returned to the cockpit, the cabin was buzzing with whispered conversations. Passengers were exchanging incredulous looks, some quietly cheering Jack on, others nervously wondering if they'd actually be making an emergency landing. Jack grabbed the intercom and made a call to the dispatcher. "This is Flight 187 requesting immediate clearance for diversion. Passenger issue requiring urgent attention." The dispatcher's voice crackled over the line. "Understood, Captain. Which airport are you diverting to?" Jack glanced at the flight map, his eyes settling on a small airfield just off their route. A slow smile spread across his face as he answered, "Trump Private Airport." Even Mike, who'd been silently monitoring the situation, turned to Jack with wide eyes. "You're not serious." "Dead serious," Jack replied. "If this kid wants to act like he owns the place, let's see how he handles landing on home turf." As the plane began its descent, Jack's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we'll be making a brief stop. We appreciate your patience and cooperation." In first class, Barron shifted uncomfortably in his seat. For the first time that day, the smirk vanished from his face. "How would you have handled this situation if you were in Jack's shoes? Do you think he made the right call, or could there have been a better way to handle Barron's behavior? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you know ever experienced a moment where someone's privilege or attitude created chaos? Let us know, and don't forget to like this story if it resonated with you. The story was created to highlight real-life challenges and to inspire conversations about fairness, respect, and accountability. Together, we can shed light on these issues and work toward making the world a better, more just place. Your opinion matters.